Hi everyone, welcome back to the stream. I hope you had a good week. So did I. Today we're going to back to do another stream, second stream. I hope everyone enjoys it as much as last time. I forgot to mention last week that tomorrow is also my birthday. So today we're also going to do a pre-birthday stream. Let's call it that. So today, what's on the agenda? We're going to set up our Proxmox Backup Server. We're also going to connect our AD to Entra ID sync, do some question and answering, and if time allows it, maybe we can do some shopping on Amazon to see if we can find something to add to the home lab. Thanks, Dad. Going to be 38 years old or young. Getting old, seeing all the gray hair. Hi Patrick. Dag buurman. Let's see if everything is up and running. I wish 38. Let's say on Monday I feel like 99 years old sometimes, and on Friday like 200. So I made a little drawing with a Skelly draw. I'll put a link in the chat for everybody else. So what we are going to do first is set up our Proxmox Backup Server. We have our existing cluster already with our 3 nodes with a shared storage in Ceph. They're all connected via 2.5 gigabit switch, and we're going to set up Proxmox Backup Server that's also connected to that gigabit switch. I have cheated a little bit. I've already installed the backup server on a mini PC, but don't you worry, I've prepared a little virtual machine to go through the setup together, because it's really not that difficult. So what I've prepared is a virtual machine. I've downloaded the Proxmox Backup Server ISO. You can find it on the website of Proxmox. So you go to the website of Proxmox, under downloads, you can select the Proxmox Backup Server and you can download it. In the virtual machine I've set up a little boot drive and 2 extra disks. So let's get started. That's why we don't like to do live demos. This should be better. So while we go through the installation, I don't know for you guys how your week was, anything special you've done. So this screen you will recognize from the normal Proxmox installation. You just have to accept the EULA. You can choose the disk. In my case, I've prepared a small disk for the backup server itself. Go next. enter your country, select the correct time zone and the keyboard layout, give it a password. This will also be your root password after you log in. Enter a valid email address. Press next. For my naming scheme, I'm going to use pbs.internal.mylemans.online. Recommended is to give it a static IP and press next and install. Indeed, time flies, and in my case, when I'm on a holiday, it flies even faster. Hey, what kind of projects are you doing that? I've been busy with the channel also. I don't know if everybody has the chance to watch the latest video on the Proxmox Data Center Manager that I did. I had a little bit of fun with that one. It was new for me. And like I said, mentioned in the video, I have high hopes for it. A lot of features that I want are already in there, but the moment they also include something for the backup, it will be perfect. Oh no, Citrix. The most important thing that I know from Citrix is when it's working, leave it alone, don't touch it, don't even look at it. Now our backup server is installed and it will give us a link. So HTTPS, our IP, .8007. Let's see if we can connect to it. .9.3. And you will enter username root and our password that we entered in the installation and press login. The screen also looks a lot like Proxmox. So we have the typical side panel, our dashboard overview, and first of all we need to initialize our disks. So we have two disks that I've added, you can see them here. And to create a volume, go to ZFS, select create ZFS, give it a name. I'm going to name it local storage, for example. And because we have two disks, we're going to select mirror in this case. We have a mirror of each disk. Select both disks and click create. Yes, I find it also very useful. I've already, because last time we did our remote desktop project, I've already converted those virtual machines over to the Proxmox cluster that I'm also using. So even I'm also using it in real time. So now that our local storage is created, we can connect the local storage is also on the data store automatically, and we can connect this to our Proxmox node. The best practice would be to also create a dedicated user for that. So we go to access control, user management, and add a new user. Let's call it, for example, PBS user. give it a password, and press add, and then we go under permissions, select add user permissions, and here we select our data store local storage that we just created, select our user PBS, and for the role we select data store backup, and we press add. And if we go to our Proxmox node, we can add our backup storage, go under data center, we go under storage, we can press add and add our Proxmox Backup Server and give it an ID. I'm going to call it PBS VM. You will enter the IP address, the user we just created, but very important, we have to add the user with also the correct realm. So we have username PBS-user with realm PBS. So here we add PBS as realm, enter the password, and you have to enter our storage. So we called it local storage, and it's capital sensitive. So if you have any capitals, you also have to enter them here. The fingerprint you can find if you go back to your backup server on the dashboard, show fingerprint, and here you can copy and paste. And if everything goes well, it's been added, you will see the backup server appear under all your nodes. My naming convention, it depends on my own home lab. I try to use some kind of industry standard, but in my lab environment I will use the Mylemans standard. Something that's practical and useful for me, and I think that's the most important. Pick a naming convention that you can recognize, that's useful for you to use in your home lab. So now that our backup is storage is added, the backup part is super easy. We just go to backup, we click on add, we select our storage, so PBS VM for example. We can select a schedule. For example, we want to do a backup every day at 9 o'clock. Here we can select only the included. So if you say I only want to include this virtual machine, this one and this one and this one, or in a production environment it will be more useful to just select all. So I'm also going to select all. The mode, you can select snapshot, suspend or stop. Most of the time snapshot is more than enough or sufficient enough. And we just click create, and that's it. We've configured our Proxmox Backup Server, we've configured our backups, and everything is working as intended. What we can further do under our Proxmox Backup Server is go to, let's see, our local storage. We can set up prune and garbage collection jobs. So for example, every day at midnight I want to do a garbage collection job. I want to do a prune job every hour. And maybe the most important part is under options, you can select verify new snapshots and enable it. This will mean that when this is off, your backups will be created but will not be verified. And if you turn this on, by default, every backup snapshot that you take will also be verified. So you are 99.999% sure your backup is working as intended. Now go back to our nodes and let's say, for example, our domain controller. If we want to force a new backup, we can do it by selecting backup now. No, sorry, go back to data center, backup, and select our job and just say run now. And now we're running our first backup job. And that was it. That's how easy it is to set up a Proxmox backup server, and how easy it is to set up backup jobs, add the storage. So I don't know if there are any questions related to the Proxmox backup server, because I have a little bit further that I would like to go to show you how to set up an offsite backup job. And note that does not need extra licensing, so it's completely 100% free. Does not do a license model for CPU or cores or anything like that. I think you can get a subscription if you want to. You can buy an enterprise support service, which I would recommend also for Proxmox itself if you run it on an enterprise level. But for the software itself, you don't need anything for licensing. Backups are running in the background. So this is an example of the Proxmox Backup Server with 2 extra disks. It does do data natively, so I can show that after the backups are done. Let's see if I can show it now already. Because after the backups are done, I'm going to run a garbage collection and a prune job manually, because now we see a deduplication factor of 1, and the moment everything gets collected and processed, you will see that the number will go up, like a factor of 2 or 3. Let's say if you have 10 Windows virtual machines, and it's almost the same kind of data, you will get a factor of times 8, times 10 maybe, perhaps. We'll have to wait a little bit for our first backups to complete. And for offsites, there are already S3 endpoints that you can add. But for what I have read, it's not 100% supported or working like. So I would not recommend the S3 endpoints for production use just yet. Wait maybe for the next tier. But for the fun of it, and because we're in a home lab, we will connect it to our Hetzner and create a S3 endpoint with them. I don't think you can backup specific data settings from within a VM, but I know you can restore specific settings. So you take a complete snapshot of the virtual machine, and with the restore function you can restore just a single file, restore the entire virtual machine, but I don't think you can do a backup from specific settings. Let me see, just in case. For example, this one maybe. Let's see. No, I can just backup only a snapshot. So I'm not able to do specific settings or specific disks like you could do with for example, Veeam. You can select only specific disks that you want to backup. So in this case, you will take an entire snapshot. The backup will take a while, so let's see if we can go to the next step. It's like I said before, I've cheated a little bit and I've already created my own backup server on a mini PC. And let's see if we can also create an offsite copy. We log in to Hetzner. The first backup will be the entire size of your virtual machine. So let's say, for example, this one. So this one is 32 gigabytes of storage, and the first backup will be the entire snapshot of the used disk. So let's say, for example, only 15 gigabytes of this disk is used. It will take a full backup of 15 gigabytes, and the next backup it will be only the incremental difference. So let's say you've added 2 gigabytes of extra storage, you will only backup that extra 2 gigabytes. But after deduplication, and if you are using, let's say you have an entire server park of server 2025 servers, and it's like 100 servers, yeah, you only backup the Windows instance only once and don't have to duplicate the data all over again. I might do factor authentication for Hetzner. I was looking at pricing. I've also encountered Backblaze as a solution. See if I can look it up. So Backblaze B2 is also an option. It starts at $6 for a terabyte per month, and it's a free download, so you don't pay extra for the egress traffic. But I've also noticed that on Hetzner, let's see if I can find here, they also have a calculator. It's practically the same, so you get a traffic of 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte of storage, below stays $4.99. And then after every terabyte it's $4.99 extra, but it's exclusive of taxes. So including taxes, it's practically the same. So $4.99 plus taxes, it's also around €6. And because I'm already the Hetzner user, I prefer Hetzner then in this case. I don't know if you guys have any preferences of VPS as providers. I like DigitalOcean. I also like Hetzner. Hetzner is a little bit cheaper for relatively low profile servers. So let's, for example, go to this one. If I create a server and let's say cost optimize with an ARM64 CPU, we can get a 2-core 4 gigabyte model for only around €4 a month. So it's pretty cheap for what you can get. Now let's create a new project. I'm going to call it Offsite Backup. And under object storage, we can create a new bucket. Let's give it a name. Now it's online PBS offsite, for example. You can enable and disable object locks. This can be useful for production environments if you don't want to accidentally delete anything. I'm going to set it disabled in this case. Visibility, of course, private. Don't want anybody else to read our sensitive backup data. Of course, I have to create credentials. Don't worry, I will delete these credentials afterwards, after the stream, and create another one. So don't anybody else can connect to my bucket. Then in our PBS we can add S3 endpoint, add one, let's call this one listener. The endpoint will be this string, port is default, and here we can enter our access key and secret key that we just generated, and click on add. We also have to configure this one to our data store. So let's call this site copy. Go to select data store S3. Select the endpoint we just created. And important, we have to also create a local cache. So I'm going to go to mount slash offsite, I'm going to call it. And just press add. I did something wrong here. Offsite 2 for a change, because I think it's complaining that those already exists. Azure is using the same name for credentials. So also the, let's see if I can go back. So it always uses an access key and a secret key. And so it's the same on AWS, Azure, Backblaze, everything that's an S3 storage bucket will use these. The access key is a username then, for example, and the secret key is your password that you will use to connect. Not sure why it's not working right now. See our bucket. We did see an error earlier here, so I don't know if this is the case. Recreate this one just in case. That does not seem to work for today. So I guess we don't get to see. I've tried it before during this week and I could make it work. But I think there are maybe maintenance warnings. Nothing here. So for now, I can't show you guys the S3. But like I said, it's in preview right now. So they already also say it here. If you try to edit, it's technical preview. It's always DNS, Patrick, always. But I've heard that there were some Amazon issues today in the news. So perhaps Hetzner is also maybe using some type of Amazon services in the backend. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's going to be something like that. So for now we just delete it. It's not going to pay for something that's not going to be used. Let's see how far our backups are doing. There's one with an error. Oh yeah, I've selected my templates also. Those shouldn't be backed necessarily. In this case, they are going to be backed. So let's see, now our storage usage is about 130 gigabytes with 9 VMs backed. Now let's go to our prune jobs and run them manually. Now our garbage collection also run them manually. And let's see if this number goes up. Here you can see in this case we have a deduplication factor of 5.7. So it means that everything is deduplicated almost 5 times. So it's a pretty significant savings account. And so it could be that also getting lower. It's just doing its job right now. And for a restore, let's see. So here we can see every virtual machine that's already been backed. So for example, we have our DC1, our remote desktop gateway, our remote desktop server 1, some test VMs. So let's, for example, I have my domain controller 1 and I want to do a restore. Excuse me. You see the backup here, and we can do a restore from the machine. Refresh. Yeah, can do a restore. And you can say that you can start it, override, but I don't think this is the correct one that I'm looking for. I don't think this backup was already completed. No, it's still in progress of backing everything up. I want to demonstrate the restore, and you can also restore on file level also. Have to wait a little bit longer. So what kind of are you guys using any virtual private servers like Hetzner or DigitalOcean or anything for your home lab? Because I like to run a VPS instance in the cloud. Let me see if I can connect to it right away. So this is also running on Hetzner for me, and it's like, for example, I have my UniFi controller in there. So that is completely off-grid. And here I have my unified devices. So if you guys want to play around, for example, with Hetzner or for like DigitalOcean, I think I have for DigitalOcean an affiliate that will give, let me see just in case, much it was. So it's $200 credit for 60 days, DigitalOcean, and Hetzner it's a little bit less. It's 20 euros. So I don't know if it's interesting, or I'll put them in the chat just in case. And if you guys want to use any of them, it will give me a little bit of kickback. Yes, correct. You have to do the correct naming. So with Hetzner, it was the I've just deleted everything, of course. You have to enter the name. Do I have it still open? Mylemans online test. In this case, for Hetzner, you have to copy this endpoint link. So here you see the endpoint. Let's generate some new credentials. And here you see the bucket. This the bucket we created, Mylemans online test. You'll see it here. So in some other use cases, I'm going to save it. Maybe this time it will work. Let's see. Let's see. Now it does work. So Patrick, probably DNS all along. It's good because now we can see it working. But for other S3 endpoints, you're right. Sometimes you have to do a bucket .s3.region, etc. Like you say, that, and then you have to define the region here. I know for Backblaze, for AWS, for some other services, it's more complicated, but they give the instructions on how you have to fill in the endpoint on those dedicated platforms. So I don't know for Backblaze. See if I can find something. I think this guy has already created it. Don't get an example here, fortunately. Let's see a perfect example. No. but it depends on what kind of service you are using. Nerd.io, the name says something. See. The name is familiar to me, Nord. I haven't used it in practice. AVD also in a limited fashion. We have some clients that are using AVD, but those are mostly really small companies with, let's say, 1 or 2 AVD installations with some applications that they can't, that they have to run on a dedicated machine. But more and more companies are going to SaaS or web applications these days, and the need for dedicated remote desktop environments, especially for smaller clients, is getting less and less, I've noticed. But it's something I'm going to add to my favorites because it's something to further look into. Could be useful. Let's see if I can continue in this case with our offsite version. So because this is my not a virtual backup server but my own real backup server, I just have to create another user again. Let's call it PBS offsite. Also give him the correct permissions. Then start backup role. Now we're going to do the same again. So on our Proxmox nodes, we go to data center, we go to storage, we go to add Proxmox Backup Server. In this case, I'm going to call it PBS offsite. Instead of the IP, now I'm going to use the DNS name, PBS offsite, and the password we just generated. Data store is Mylemans online test. Should have given it a better name, but oh well. In this case, we don't have to provide a fingerprint because it's only required for self-signed certificates. And in this case, I've already pushed a valid certificate with Let's Encrypt on my own backup server, so that's no longer needed. Let's press. And don't forget the realm. So in this case again, the realm is PBS. Press add. And now I've created our offsite backup. And this is, I'm not going to select for all machines, but let's say for example, we have our offsite. We want to do it also every day. But because it's offsite and it's expensive, most cases, I'm not going to select all, just going to include the selected VMs. And let's say, for example, in my case, my domain controller is the most important, so I'm going to add this one to the backups. Also going to do a snapshot mode. Press create. I'm also going to run it now, just in case. Blah, blah. So now we have 2 backups configured. One on site to our backup server, and one that goes through another backup server, and it acts as a proxy and will back up the backups to Hetzner offsite, and will go into the bucket we created with Hetzner. It's going to be a little bit too soon to show, but the files will be stored here I believe on a CNT or on a chunks. And here's the snapshot that's now being generated. Okay, so it just needed to transition from Citrix to AVD. I know most of the clients that we do now, we don't use Citrix anymore, but we use, I forget the name, Parallels from Amigo. Is it Amigo? I think they bought over. Yes, so this one, Parallels that we use for our clients. Instead of the classic remote desktop, instead of the Citrix environments, for those type of clients, we're now switching over more and more to Parallels. So the network traffic for Hetzner, I'm going to go back. So with Hetzner, for the price of $4.99, including taxes, it will be more like 6 euros. It will cost, you will get 1 terabyte, and you will also get 1 terabyte of traffic, outgoing traffic. So inbound, it's not charged, but if you want to download it back, you can download up to 1 terabyte for free. And let's say you have 1 terabyte of storage backup, but you have to download it 2 times. It will cost you a little bit more. So let's say, I don't know, €1 for extra terabyte. They will charge you for the outbound traffic. But for the inbound, it's included in the price. So there we have it. We have a pretty cheap offsite solution, no licensing cost. If DNS works, it was, let's say, 5 clicks, so it's not that hard. So it's pretty easy, pretty convenient. But again, it's in technical preview S3 with Proxmox Backup Server right now. So I would not recommend it to use it in a production environment just yet. Hold on for another release version before you try it. But if you want to experiment with it for your home lab, go ahead. It's not that hard. It's, in my eyes, also not that expensive. A terabyte for 6 euros, it's not that expensive. And if you just want to try it out, I've provided the link for Hetzner. It will give you 20 euros for a month or almost 2 months, so you can experiment it free of charge if you want. So that was the Proxmox Backup Server. Like I said, I've cheated a little bit because I don't know if you noticed it, that it went pretty smooth without having to look pretty much everything up. I have already made a little video about it, and it will be released next Friday. So next Friday I will go over the Proxmox Backup Server in more detail, just like I did with the virtual machine I created. So you guys got a little bit of a sneak preview. So what I go through in this video, you guys already seen it right now. So there we go. We have our Proxmox nodes. We have a backup to our on-site Proxmox Backup Server, and we created also an off-site backup to Hetzner. Mission successful. Next on the agenda is the synchronization of Active Directory to Entra ID. But before I get started on that, I don't know if there are any questions again for around Proxmox or something related with the Proxmox Backup Server. Let's see here how our backups are doing in the meantime. They're all still running. So in the meantime, I will get started with the migration of AD to Entra ID. So I've pulled up the Microsoft Docs. We'll also put it in the description, because it's very important. You have two options these days. So you can use the Cloud Sync or the Entra Connect sync. And it's very important to beforehand choose the correct sync you want to use. Most of them can do everything that the other one can do, but there are a few major differences. So let's say, for example, the Cloud Sync can connect to multiple AD forests without an issue. It's a lightweight agent that you install on every server. You can have multiple agents for high availability. Connect Sync, you can't do that in high availability. You can install it on multiple servers, but only one can be active at the time. Let's see, one big difference for Connect Sync that it supports device objects. So if you ever want to, let's say you want to run it hybrid, you want to keep your Active Directory as a primary source, your PCs, your laptops, your servers will all be connected to Active Directory primarily, and you want to also connect them hybridly to Azure without decoupling them from Active Directory, then you have to go with a Connect Sync. Then you don't have an option to go to Cloud Sync anymore. But if you have the option to decommission them from Active Directory and join them natively to Entra AD, then you can perfectly go to Cloud Sync. I have not seen many environments that you will need to do it hybridly. Most of the time you can just perfectly use Cloud Sync. In real life, I would suggest take a spare device that you have, undo the AD join, just do an Entra Connect join and see what you come across or what you can't do anymore. And most of the time you will notice that everything just works without any issues. Another big difference is that with Connect Sync you can do a pass-through authentication, but you can't do that with Cloud Sync. You can only do that with a password hash sync. You can do filtering on objects with attribute values. The same for attribute flows. You don't have support for device write-back. Also important when you want to do a hybrid environment. But Microsoft has recommended that users should use Cloud Kerberos Trust instead to prevent or to bypass that limitation. Let's see for what else. There's also a big difference if you have user groups that are only 50,000 members and no more, you can perfectly go with CloudSync. But if you have large groups with more than or up to 250 members, you also have to use ConnectSync in that case. And then on-demand provisioning is something that you can only do with the CloudSync. So in our case, we don't have user groups with more than 250 members, so that should not be an issue. In my case, I don't really need the hybrid setup, so I'm going to go in my environment with the CloudSync. Nested groups are not supported. How do I put it? Yes, they are supported, but you have the need to have the correct licensing for that. For my understanding, as long as you don't have a P2 license, let's see if I can show it. So here I have give it some time to load, because I think this machine is also the one that's currently being backupped. See if I can find it here more easy. Here you can see groups can be members of other groups, so it shouldn't be a problem. But you have to have the correct licensing for that. I can't find the official documentation right now, but you should use, I think you have to use a P2 license for nested groups. But the other solution around that is that you can use dynamic groups also in Entra ID. Give me some trouble right here. I think it's because of the backups. We need to go to our groups, and I can show you what I mean. So let's say you create a new group, and let's say you call it security group test, just in case, and instead that you select the type to assigned, you can do it to dynamic user or dynamic device, and here you can do a query. So you can choose an expression, let's say I want to do everyone see everyone in the department that equals to, let's say, sales. Then every user that is in the sales department will automatically be assigned to this group. So let's call it, just in case, sales. So every new user that will get the, let's see if we can show it here. So I've added my admin in the sales department. Give it a moment, because now it has to populate again, of course. And instead of using nested groups, I would recommend using dynamic groups if you can instead, because nested groups are great, it's easy, but it can get really difficult to see which user is in which group, or let's say if you have an overlapping user that needs to be in one security group and not in the other, but at the top level both are also in the same share. I would not recommend using nested groups in Azure anymore, to be honest, and just try to use the dynamic groups. So here you can see, because I've added the admin under the properties in the correct department. So in the sales department, automatically the admin user is now in the sales department security group, and this group you can choose to add to applications. You can use that group in Intune, in Teams, name it. The cloud only would also work if the proper attributes, because the admin user I've demonstrated with is cloud only. So we don't have any synced users over yet. You have to, when you create a user, you have to define the proper information first, of course. So let's, for example, create a new user. Say Jefke Vermeulen. We'll create a password when we will require it. Don't assign a license just yet, because I need it for my own user. Next. And finish. And in our user, the Jefke is also someone who works in sales. So we have to add it here in this interface or within Entra Admin Center under users. So it's practically both the same. You have to add it manually there. Yes, correct. But you can also do this the same way for on-premise users. So let's say I have my mark user already in Active Directory. Now it's not going to do anything, of course, but in preparation, if I go to here and I add Mark to the sales department here, and when we sync my user over to the cloud, it will have the same effect, exactly the same effect. So to prove that, let's get started with that. So let's go ahead with our sync. So again, we go to admin.microsoft.com. We go to our identity under admin centers. Here we can choose Entra Connect. We're going to choose Cloud Sync in my case. Go with a new configuration. And you can choose AD to Entra ID, or you can also, if you are cloud only, but in some strange scenario you have to go to on-premise, and again you can also choose to sync from Entra ID to your Active Directory agent. But in this case we want to go from Active Directory to Entra ID. I don't have an agent yet, so I have to click here and have to download an agent. And this can be installed. It does not have to be installed on the domain controller itself. It can be a domain joint server, a member server. You can install, for example, 2 separate sync servers and just run 2 separate instances. So it does not have to be on the Active Directory server. But in my case, I'm going to do it because it's a little bit more convenient. Just enter the global administrator from your tenant. And setup was successful. Now we go to here, lab internal, and we have to enter a domain admin. It's important for the Entra Connect sync that you also have to enter a user with enterprise admin rights. In this case, domain admin is more than enough. Can add directory, but it's already added, so okay, and confirm. Let's wait a little bit. Now, if I'm going a little bit too fast in this example, don't worry. I've already created a guide for it in the past, so I will link it also in the chat, so you can take a look at it if you want to. But it's practically exactly the same that I'm doing right here. But if you want to go through it again on your own pace, can look at that. And I believe I have also added the where is it? The Windows Hello Cloud Care Burst Trust is also linked in that that post. There you go. Let's see if we can see our agent now. Perfect. Now we can see our agent that is installed. You can enable or disable password hash sync. See if I can go back. I think I've this was an already used tenant that I'm using, and I had to disable the old synchronization on this tenant to clean several things up. The problem is it can take up to 72 hours after you disable a sync. So I think I'm a little bit stuck right here. Little bit stuck for the synchronization part. What I can demonstrate further is for the what you need to do to prepare. Because we have a public domain, of course. In our case, laptop.mylemans.online. And it's very important that we also append that UPN suffix with Active Directory domain and trust. So if you go to Start and search for domain and trust, select properties, and here you can enter laptop.mylemans.online, lie and OK. And the reason we do that is because when we create a new user in Active Directory, it's very important under account we also change the UPN to the matching domain in our Office 365 environment. What I also recommend is filling in the mail address here. The email address, and also when you open the advanced features, go to Attribute Editor. You have the proxy addresses right here. So in all capitals, press SMTP, enter the email address, and if you want to add aliases, you can do it in small SMTP, and let's say Mark M at laptop.mylemans.online. That will be the alias. Let's see if I can try it one more time here. Okay, now I can see it. So let's go back to it. So we were going to do the sync. So under Interconnect, Cloud Sync, new configuration AD to Microsoft Entra ID. We've already installed our agent that we did a minute ago. Now we can see the list of agents. We enable the password hash sync, press create, and if everything goes well, it should be good. So let this be a lesson. You have to be patient with Azure and Entra ID. Nothing is it's just click, click, click. There we go. Configuration is successfully completed. We can do this side by side. Now we have our configuration, and you will notice by default it will always be added in a disabled state. So we'll first have the chance to configure it properly before it is enabled. So you can do some filterings, map some attributes. Most important, you can do a test. So you can enter a user. So let's say, for example, I want to test with my Mark user. And you have to enter the Active Directory distinguished name of the user. So we go back to our attribute editor and we look for our distinguished name. It's right here. Press U and you can just copy and paste and press provision. Okay, it's disabled. It's as expected. Now we can go to review and enable. And you can see, okay, it's the correct domain. Password hash sync is enabled, it's correct. Let's see, prevent accidental deletion is okay. Here's the threshold of 500, you can lower it if you want. Enable the configuration. Go back to our test. And this is, in my opinion, the best or the biggest difference also between the Entra Connect sync and the Cloud sync is that you can do a provision on demand. Give it some time to be enabled first. Still have to be patient. Let's go under the rest of the configuration perhaps first. Here you can see the scoping filter. It's by default is all users. You can also select for selected security groups or for select organizational unit. So let's say, for example, we only want, let's create another one, organizational user. We call it synced users. Also asks for the distinguished name of the object. So we created a sub OU named synced users. I'm going to add, save. So with this configuration, what we have done is instead that all the users of our environment, only users that reside under synced users. So if you select Mark put them over here. Only this user will be synchronized. And let's say if you create another user here, let's call him Jos Vermeulen. This user will not be synchronized. Let's see if we can have given it enough time to be enabled. That's the problem. I have indeed disabled the sync to clean some things up. See if I can enable it again. Thanks for joining the stream, Patrick. Have a good day, good evening, and thanks for the tip. I already got an Elgato Stream Deck. I've been using it during the stream, a previous stream, and I'm loving it. Hope you can make it to the next stream again, next Monday, at the same time. And if we can fix this. That looks already better. Verify. Okay, now it's true. Perfect. So let's. Yes, indeed, I already also just noticed it that. The problem I was having, just to recapitulate a little bit, I had to clean up my existing Office 365 tenant with the previous sync I've already set up, but I wanted to clean it up for this demonstration, so I had to disable the sync, so everything would be turned back into cloud only users, but I had to re-enable it manually to enable the sync again. This is not something you should be doing normally when you do the cloud sync. If you have never done a synchronization before with your tenant, you just have to follow these steps, and you don't have to manually enable or disable the synchronization in that case. It's just because I have manipulated it, and normally you have to wait 72 hours and it will fix itself, but we don't have patience, or I don't have patience, so I had to re-enable it manually. So let's see if now we can do our provisioning on demand. Normally they say 3rd time's the charm, but this time it's 99 times the charm, but we will get there. Let's provision our user. Let's see if this time it works. Then this is what we would like to see. So in this case, our user is created in Microsoft Entra ID. We can verify that by going back to our users. And here we can see our user, Mylemans. And if we go back to the contact information, you will see sales is automatically pre-populated because we entered it on our Active Directory. And because of that, the user should also be in the sales department or in the sales group. And here the sales group, and go to members. It can take some time. And you will see Mark is automatically added in the sales group. So instead of again using the nested groups, let's say in this case we had a group, it's called sales department for let's make it here. Sales, and instead of adding Mark to that group, or for example, this is a bad example, but let's say all domain users are a sales group user. In this case, we have with the dynamic groups, we have automatically created our nested groups in this case. I don't know if that's clear what I'm trying to say at that. I'm going to delete this group just in case. Also going to create another OU. No, not going to create another OU, we're going to create another group. Let's call this group security group licensing business premium. And we can also synchronize this group. Normally it should do it automatically. So a restart to fully. Yes, so the soup should also sync over. So if I create another one, let's call him another organizational unit, and let's call him just test. And I create a test user. Let's call him Bart Simpson. And now Bart Simpson should also be synced over. We can test it. Let's provision on demand. And you can see that successfully synchronized, successfully created the user without any issue, because it's in that same sub OU. So the user is in scope. So past the filter, and we had the scoping filter on this this synced user, and because it's underneath that synced user in the sub OU, the scope was okay. Let's also do it for our user just to see if what I'm saying is correct. So let's provision on demand our user JOS. And here you will see is not created and skip join not found. So let's see if we can see any more detail. User was skipped. Join not found. Scoping filter evaluation passed is false. So here it says no, it did not pass the filter, so it was skipped. So just vermelden, this user is not joined. Let's see if our group is also created, because there's a neat trick you can do with groups also. So here you can see we have our security licensing group, which is synced. And if you open this, no, not this way, if you go to licensing, so licenses, let's give it some time to load. Took a while earlier also. Just faster here. Okay, so we have our business premium licensing. We can open that, and you can assign a license to users, or you can assign a license to groups. In this case, we want to go to groups, assign a license. In this case, we want to assign to the licensing business premium. You can select what you want or what you don't want. For example, users cannot use Yammer or Whiteboard for some reason. I can deselect that, can assign a license. And by doing so, every user that is in this group, so let me make sure. Let's add Mark to that group. Let's restart synchronization to speed things up. Let's see. I don't see the group chats yet. I have to wait a little bit. Okay, now I'm in the correct group. And based on that, I should receive the correct license automatically. You see, successfully assigned to my user. And if I go back, and here you can see I've automatically gotten a license for my own user, and the only thing I had to do was create my user, create the correct email, create correct proxy addresses, add them to the security group, and with that automatically the user was synchronized. My picture is here, every information from Active Directory is synchronized, my user was added in the correct security group, and in the sales group that we had, for example. So everything is now synchronized with our Active Directory into our Entra ID. I don't know if there are other topics that you would like to see regarding to this synchronization. Because from this point on, your user is actually able to, let's see if I have a demo virtual machine here. So in this case, we have logged in with our Active Directory user, with an Active Directory joined device. We have created a username and synced it in Office 365. The user has a license and an email address. And can be used for everything Microsoft 365 related. Let me go through these steps in the meantime. Yes, correct. So if it's an already existing cloud environment and on-premise, you have to be very careful that you don't get duplicated users. So for example, I don't know if I can show it. Let's say we have a user, let's call him let's call him Homer Simpson. Let's say that we also have an Homer Simpson here. And I hope I can demonstrate what the issue is if you do this. But let's say with our user Homer, we want to provision Homer. Normally this will sync every, let's say, 15-30 minutes. It will sync automatically, so you don't have to restart, you don't have to provision on demand. Just in this case, to speed it up, I'll do it manually. So let's see what happens if we try to sync Homer. So in this case, user Homer was updated, not created, but updated, which is good. Let's see if we don't get a duplicate, just to be sure. And our user Homer is updated correctly from a cloud only to a sync user. The downside is if there's a mismatch between this user and the user on premise, then there's a possibility you will get a duplicate user. So in that case, it's best to export the users first. You will get a list with all the users, and you can check. So for example, Homer Simpson, let's open it up. So we have display name Homer Simpson, that's correct. We have our first name and last name, that also matches. The account information matches, so user principal name, user logon name, it matches everything, should be good. If something is not 100% correct in this case, the downside is that you will get duplicated users, and the other downside is that everything inside Active Directory will overwrite everything in Office 365. So let's say, for example, here we have our sales department, company, Mylemans Online, for example. If this is filled in, and let's say, for example, here I can't demonstrate it perfectly anymore because it's already grayed out, but let's say that company or department is here, let's say finance or something like that. AD will overwrite what's inside Office 365. So you will lose this information and will be overwritten with this information. So if you have an existing environment, it's 100% important that you do an export first. Go through your on-premise environment and make sure that everything matches with your existing environment before you do a synchronization. So this is our user, and it can sync. We can also do a OneDrive sync. Let's also do that in the meantime. Yes, makes indeed perfect sense. The downside is that the first time you encounter something like that, it 100% makes sense, but at that time, yeah, you have to experience it first. to know what's going on, and if you know and you know what can go wrong in that case, you can make preemptive measures. And very importantly, you can with the export within Entra ID, you always have a backup from the information that also is in there. There we go. Next. Later we have a fully operational user that is both in AD and Entra ID. We can sync our documents, desktop, pictures, our browser information. Everything will be synced within our Office 365 account. And if we want to go to the next step, so let's say this user, we don't want this user in our Active Directory anymore, we don't want this PC in our Active Directory anymore, you can go to another step, and that is with the tool, let me see, you're the Forensic IT software. We'll also link that in the chat. And this is a pretty useful tool if you want to convert your existing PCs to Azure. Use the script that you can find. So let me first download the script. This step you only have to do one time. So we want to run save Azure AD user, run it with PowerShell. Yes, correct. So it's like the migration tool for Microsoft. I can show you, but this is a third-party tool, and it's also very useful if you want to migrate a profile from an old PC to a new PC. But this is pretty useful for transferring an existing profile and read that profile inside the newly created Azure profile. So it's pretty useful if you want to migrate your existing PCs to Intune without a fully wipe and reload of the device, which can save a lot of time. The only important part is that your profile cannot be corrupted in any way, your local profile. So if you encounter any errors or any issues, the problems will 100% be migrated over to the new profile also. So if that's the case with any PC that has issues, don't do it this way. Just do a new profile and sign in with a new profile and migrate the data over manually then. Also very important, now that this is installing in the background, because we will have to unjoin our device from the Active Directory, we have to make sure that we create a backup local administrator just in case. So let's say net user add backup admin, let's give it temporary password. So we create a user. Let's also add it to the administrators group. Because once we unjoin from the domain, we don't have a local administrator anymore, we are locked out of the device. So it's very important before we do this, because during this migration process we will go from Azure AD joint to workgroup joint and then go to Azure AD joint. No, I'm from the Flemish part of Belgium. So I think only France and Belgium uses the Azure keyboard layout. Maybe one other country, but I think for the rest of the world, everyone uses QWERTY or QWERTY, and we are the very few that uses Azure. Which can be a bit confusing sometimes, because I have a few customers that are in a mixed nationality. So they by default use QWERTY there, and every time I have to switch over, it's yeah, let's say it's not a it's not a good time. It can be a pain in the ass. Yes, the entire part of Belgium uses Azure. The weird part is France also uses Azure, but France uses a little bit of a different kind of Azure. So a few of the keyboard keys don't match 100%. So yeah, Belgium has to be very special in that case. This is again why IT gets paid by the hour. Always have to wait. In the meantime, while we wait, so like Patrick says, I've already ordered the Stream Deck not that long ago, right before our streams. So I have it right here in my desk. So I'm pretty happy with it. And I was thinking for extra items that I could get for the lab is maybe this small screen. It's a very slim screen. Could be useful for reading the chat, especially in the vertical position, or put it underneath my my monitor to follow things up. And I believe it's also a touchscreen, or perhaps to put in the background. So let me see if I can show it. In the background right there, I have a monitor. And I thought it would be nice to maybe put a light bar on top of it. Would be easier to read, but also for RGB to make it a little bit more, yeah, a little more fun, dynamic, to have a little bit more color during the stream. Or maybe a pop filter. I don't know if the quality of the mic is okay, but perhaps a pop filter would also be nice. So those are a few items that I already have in mind for getting myself as a gift to contribute to the channel, to the streams. So I don't know if you have any other ID stat or anybody else that's in the chat right now. Let's see. Oh, here we go. We are getting a little bit further. Maybe that's a good thing that the light will take away my spotlight. Now I can hide again. No, I think maybe for a little bit of ambiance, for a little bit of a background, could be nice. Okay, let's see if this is good. Yeah, for me streaming is also relatively new. So I did a lot of research. I've had to learn OBS on the fly to get all this working. It was fun. ChatGPT is very helpful. Now let's see if we can make this work. So first step with the Forensic ID tool, let's download it first. So we have the user profile wizard and the trans wizard. Trans wizard is for moving from one PC to another PC. The user profile wizard is for moving within the same hardware to a different account. So let's say from Active Directory to a workgroup, or from workgroup to Active Directory, etc., etc. In the freeware, yes, open. Finish. Now we created the backup user. Go back to the workgroup. You can use or your domain administrator or your local administrator. I'm going to use the local administrator on purpose to see if I have the correct permissions. Let's restart. And for the shopping spree, it doesn't have to be for streaming exactly. If there's something that you think, oh, it could be useful for the home lab, let's say, for example, I already got one of those, but let's say Geekpie has mini racks. I already have something like that, but if you think something like that, oh yeah, I have something like that that could be useful, please let me know. Could be fun to experiment with something new. Let's say, for example, you also have these network KVMs like GL iNet. That's a KVM switch that you can use over the network. Could be also something fun to order. Windows updates. Always have to wait on the Windows updates. We're 96%, 97% there. There we go. We log in with the backup admin. Tomorrow I have plans with the family to go to eat somewhere. It's also going to be fun. Oh yeah, black backdrop could also be nice. Have to see what for projecting. You mean like something like a green screen or something like that? That could be fun. Now before we can join to Azure with the Profis tool, very important that we first join our device to Entra ID. Join this device to Entra ID. And because this device will be used by, in this case, the user Mark, we will join it with his user account. You can do it with the administrator account, but you have a limitation of, I think by default, 5 devices per user account. You can increase it to 15, and you can manually assign primary users with each device. But it's more convenient to just let the user enter their credentials. So the correct primary user is already linked to the correct device. This is also something we do during projects, during migration of workstations. Users always have to be guided one way or another, and then I can just sit by the user, let them enter their credentials, do all the steps together, give them some advice, some guidance, so they know what's going on. There we go, we are joined, and with that done, we can run our tool, which we downloaded, of course, not under our admin but under user mark. Put it here next to the XML file we created. And if everything works right, here we see our user. So this is our old Active Directory joint user. We can go next. Automatically we see Azure AD selected. That's because this XML file we created is present. And here we can enter our username that we want to migrate to. You can select set as default if you want. Not found. Yeah, it's indeed not found. Try running this again. That's what this script does. It should populate every user inside the Entra ID into this file. Accept. Let's see the file again. Yes, this is much better. So here we see all the usernames: Bart Simpson, Homer Simpson, etc., etc. And if we run this again, it should be good. Okay, this is what we want to see. So now it's migrating everything over, and because it's a pretty empty account, migration is going to be pretty fast. Go next and finish. Now it should restart the machine. And if everything went okay, we should be able to log in with our existing Entra ID user for Mark. And everything that was in the old profile is migrated over. In this case it was an empty profile, but let's say for example it was full of Excel files or something like that. It was migrated over. So if we pick now mark.mylemans, lab.mylemans online with this password, we should be able to sign in. This can take a little time because in the background it's migrating some apps and some registry settings over. Like this, updating some stuff. Now we're greeted with the Windows Hello from Intune. And you have the background used before. Shortcuts are the same as before. And because we already migrated everything over from before, we are synced. We have everything in our favorites. This time it's empty, but you know what I mean. OneDrive is already syncing again. And we have our documents, pictures, desktops already signed in automatically and backed. So in this case we did a pretty quick migration of one user from Active Directory to Entra ID, and the PC is no longer Azure joined, but is now Entra ID joined and can be managed with Intune. So if we take a look inside, let's see where I have to open here. So take a look in Intune. We should see the new device right here. So the device name is W11-001. And here we see our device, corporate device, primary user is Mark. You can do a device inventory if needed, CPU, disk drive, etc, etc. We can publish apps that we have configured. So let's say we have our company portal app. Let's include it to all devices in this case, just to speed it up a little bit. Let's see what else we have. Mozilla Firefox. Also include all devices to speed things up. We can force a sync here, or we can force a sync through the start menu. You open up connected to Mylemans Online ID. Under info, can press sync. So this does exactly the same as this sync button, but from the client side. And depending how fast Azure is, we should see some extra company portal is installed, it says. So that's one of the applications we just that we have configured within Intune. You can also do the same for Microsoft 365. But this is a bigger application, so it will take a little bit more time. And it will automatically install Word, Excel, etc. The nice thing to have with the company portal, let's see if Firefox is already available, is because we selected, let's go back to apps, under Windows. We have different assignments that we can, so we have Mozilla Firefox and we can do a required. So every device or user that we add in this group will be required to install this application and will automatically install Firefox. Let's say that we don't want Firefox to be installed by default. We can select available for enrolled devices. We can add a group here. So for example, Firefox is needed only for the sales group or for specific devices. In this case, we do it quick and dirty. We just select all devices. And because it's available, it is available here under apps in the company portal. So users without administrator rights can select an application, press install, and they can use it like an app store or the Google Play Store or something like that. And you can provide applications for your users that they can use whenever they want. So for example, let's go to apps, Windows. Let's say we want to select something from the Microsoft Store. Let's look for WhatsApp or something like that. You can select WhatsApp. Let's say the sales team always needs WhatsApp for communication for some reason. You can select add group with the sales group. Select next create. And this can take 15-30 minutes up to an hour to populate. But next time they sign in, let's see if we can test Firefox in the meantime. Yes, Firefox is installed and we can run it. Let's see if we can do a forced sync. I think we have to wait a couple of minutes. It's a little bit too fast. And in the meantime, we selected also the Office applications, and you can see Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, everything is automatically being installed because we added the device to the group of the Microsoft 365 apps. So this device is now fully Intune managed. You can, instead of the device that has to be within the Active Directory to receive group policies, etc., etc., can push everything via Intune, and it doesn't matter if the device is at home or at office or anywhere in the world. You can fully manage the device without a line of sight to your server or your Active Directory network. So that's it for me for today for this topic. I don't know if there's something else you had in mind, that something that you want to see, or not Proxmox related, or not Entra ID migration related, perhaps something else that we can do, or if you have some other questions that I can answer in the meantime. I'm going to restart this machine to see if I can show the WhatsApp also being added to the company portal. It's asking for an authenticator to enter PIN code. This typical Windows Hello procedure. Yes, I know it's a lot of information. That's why also for myself I try to document everything on the blog site, everything that I know, everything that I've learned. Let's say the Entra. So these steps that we did today. So even creating an auto profile, dynamic security group, exporting group policies, configuring applications, deploying the company portal. Everything is documented all on the website. So I would recommend taking a look also to it. Perhaps you see some other videos that you can take a look at that are useful or can be helpful. Try to link everything, step-by-step guides. There's a lot of information, and a lot that you see here in the background is some leftover from this project. I don't see what's up here yet. Like I said, can take some time before it's visible. I don't know if I can look for it already. No, just have to wait. But it's not something, yeah, useful to wait around for. So that's it for these topics. Let's see. Because you talked about a green screen, let me see if I can find it. I have a little one. No. This is a little screen that I already have. Something you can velcro over the chair. But it's a little bit too small. So we put it here. So I was thinking maybe try to use this for the stream, but like you can see, there's space here and everything here. So I need a way bigger one. But I don't know if this is better, because I kind of like the background. It's not too busy. It's kind of nice. But I think it could be nice to do some activity with it sometimes, some effects. Yes. It was a steep learning curve, especially for YouTube and for streaming. But I think I've done it. How do they say? Fake it till you make it. See, yeah, something I would love is like this, is KVM, or perhaps this light bar or behind me, because I have a little bit of RGB already in place. Let me see if I can demonstrate it. So you see the light over there. Can change it from color. Brightness. But it's a pretty small light. Yes, correct, it's my intro. Let me see if I can. Now you can see it a little bit better, I think. So I think to give it a little bit more dimension, more depth, perhaps something like this would be fun. I already have a small light bar in front of me that I use during the stream, so they can light it up and give it a little more effect. And something for in the background should, I think, would be nice. The other thing would be also nice is maybe this little screen, because now I have to look on this screen to read the chat. And I think it would feel more natural if I have a little screen below my main screen to read the chat in the meantime. These are the things I was thinking about. Can go crazy and go both, but that's something I have to think about. I think maybe yes, indeed. So I don't know for the chat itself, because I have it right here. So it's here on the screen. I don't know if this is visible enough or hinders the recordings too much. Yes, indeed. So I upped the resolution because my main screen is 1440p. So it's 2560 by 1440p, and somebody else also commented, a friend of mine also said it's too much compressed. So I've upped the resolution for the recording, and the upload seems to be handling it. And I also experience it's much more clearer this way with the native resolution, because even if it's the same dimensions, it's because it's they say it's you have 4 pixels to 3 pixels. It compresses too much from 1440p to 1080p. I didn't have the issues during the recordings, but during the streams it would be a little bit too compressed. Let's see what to pick. Always tough to have to make choices, eh? I think I'm going to have to go for the screen, because the LEDs are nice, but I think the screen would be more natural when doing the stream. Otherwise I have to keep watching to the side to see the chat, and I think it would be more useful to see it beneath me. So I'm going to buy this. There we go. That's the birthday present for this year. So if there are no more other questions or topics or anything you guys want to talk about, then I think I'm going to wrap up this stream. I had fun again like last time. I felt a little bit less stressful because it's second stream. So I hope it also felt a little bit more natural for you guys, a little bit less less confined, or a little bit less stressful for me, or how do I put it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a blast. I had a lot of fun. Tomorrow I'm going to have a dinner with my family, enjoy my birthday, and I'll see you guys next week again, same time, and I'll see if I have some other topics, and maybe we can do an unboxing next stream. Have fun, guys. See you next time, and bye bye.